Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Roberto Corona. I am an Italian anthroposopher and astrologer, and in this video we're going to talk about the next full moon in Sagittarius on June 11, a moon bringing about great changes since it will welcome the ingress of Jupiter in Cancer and its square with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. Now, this moon is the last moon of spring, which will gradually accompany us towards summer solstice. And our focus now is drawn more and more towards the celestial heights reached by the sun, which at the same time projects denser and denser shadows, highlighting the duality, these dualistic forces of the zodiac sign of Gemini, which are light and darkness. And this dualism will be resolved with the spiritual imagination of early summer, the imagination of the archangel Uriel, who according to anthroposophy rules the summer season. Now, this is the chart of the full moon in Scorpio. Let's start as always with the latest changes in the sky. On June 6, Venus finally leaves Aries after her long retrograde loop between Aries and Pisces to settle down, so to speak, in Taurus, her nocturnal domicile. On June 8, Mercury is here, enters Cancer, followed immediately after on June 9 by Jupiter, who finally passes from the zodiac sign of its exile, Gemini, to that of its exaltation, Cancer. This is a quite intense ingress that we have been discussing about lately. So if you want to learn more, I'll leave you the link in the description box of the dedicated video about Jupiter in Cancer. Now, this is of course a full moon, meaning that we are reaching the culmination of the manifestation process of the life forces of the Earth. And in particular, this is a process that started with the last new moon in Gemini on May 27. As always, in general, this is a good moment for reviewing the past because we have this symbol of moonlight shedding in the darkness of the night, this clear light of clear thinking, clear understanding of what's happening in the unconscious. It is also a time for awareness and revelations for the same reason, but also a good time for releasing, starting purifying ourselves as we basically go in the direction of nurturing these new impulses that are going to start with the next new moon in Cancer happening on June 25. Moving on to the chart, the moon is located here at 20 degrees 39 Sagittarius in the starry image of the Scorpion. Now, this is the Scorpion that you can see down here. The moon, of course, being in Sagittarius, is ruled by Jupiter, and in this regard, the two planets, Moon and Jupiter, are in a beautiful mutual reception because the Moon receives Jupiter in Cancer, her sign, and vice versa. Jupiter is receiving the Moon in his, Sagittarius. And of course, as we've mentioned, Jupiter in Cancer is making a square aspect with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction that is here. On top of that, the opposition between the moon and the sun is, of course, in the opposite degree at 20 degrees 39 minutes of Gemini. This opposition is closed by Mars in Leo, and Mars, as you can see, is doing this beautiful configuration. It's called a Thales triangle. Now, Mars in Leo is making a trine aspect with the moon on the one hand, on the other is making a sextile aspect with the sun. So basically, Mars in Leo is participating in the syzygy and is giving the chart a boost both in terms of dynamism and movement. Not only that, but Mars is also making a square aspect with Uranus that you can see here highlighted in red, meaning that we can expect some considerable tensions in the chart. Now, as a contribution to greater stability, we can definitely count on this sextile of Venus in Taurus, because Venus is all about stability, of course. A sextile between Venus and Jupiter down here. Now, we have to say that Venus, in turn, is making a square with Pluto, so she is definitely challenged by this very powerful planet. So as you can see, we have two squares really preventing this planet to help. We have the square between Mars and Uranus, and the square between Venus and Pluto, and of course we have already mentioned the square between Jupiter and Saturn. So let's tackle the meanings of the chart, starting as always from the physical meanings. From a physical point of view, the new moon in Sagittarius significantly shifts the focus on major international issues, first and foremost the tariffs issue. Now, in this regard, we can already see in action, really, the intervention of Jupiter, the planet that represents justice and the legal system. And Jupiter is affecting a part of the tariffs introduced by Donald Trump that have been declared illegal by the Court of International Trade and therefore cancelled. Now, here we are witnessing that failure in the imposition of walls, limits, and blockages described by the Saturn-Neptune conjunction that you can see here. So we have already spoken about at length in previous videos about this square between Saturn and Jupiter and the Saturn-Neptune conjunction and so on. So I'll leave you all the links in the description box down below. Now, these limits should hopefully dissolve soon, also for humanitarian aid in the Gaza Strip, since Jupiter is in mutual reception with the moon. And the Thales triangle with Mars is all about activism. Basically, we want to do something to help, for doing good, protecting and helping people in need, because Jupiter in Cancer is all about protection. And we have this very beautiful exchange between Jupiter and the moon. Now, however, in order to be effective, this intervention could require the participation of large protest movements. Now, why is that? Because Mars, which represents these interventions, is making the square with Uranus, and as we know, this planet is all about protests and revolution by the people. Of course, the sextile of Venus, goddess of love, with Jupiter that you can see here is definitely going to help, but even in this case, again, we have these tensions confirmed by the square of Venus with Pluto. So basically, in short, not without struggling, not without the intervention of the people, the mutual reception between Jupiter and the moon should finally prevail to help people in need. Now, from a psychological perspective, the full moon in Sagittarius is all about our sense of belonging to the community. And since Jupiter is in Cancer, this sense of belonging involves, in particular, our family life and our homeland. And this is because both family life and homeland, they belong precisely to Cancer. Now, the focus here is primarily on protection, again, precisely due to Mars's harmonious aspects. And this means that this moon is very favorable to strengthen our family bonds, our sense of security and belonging to family, especially if we are confronting issues, for example, with our house, which is another Cancer signification. Now, this is especially the case if the sense of security and protection in some way is put in danger or questioned. And why is that? Because we have these two squares between Uranus and Mars here and between Venus and Pluto. Now, these influences should also benefit our civic sense, our public spirit, so to speak, our will to participate in the state affairs, and so we can definitely count on this syzygy also from a political standpoint. Now, from the spiritual perspective, these meanings related to community life also concerns, in particular, spiritual communities. Why is that? Now, first of all, the moon is in Sagittarius, which is a very spiritual zodiac sign in itself, but also because the full moon shines in the starry image of the Scorpion. Now, in astrosophy, Scorpio represents both the confrontation with the forces of evil and the manifestation of the forces of the Holy Spirit in us human beings. In fact, unlike the starry Taurus, now the opposite constellation is Taurus up here. Now, Taurus is all about the cosmic aspect of the Holy Spirit. Whereas on the contrary, when we are dealing with the forces of the starry Scorpion, we have the same forces manifesting down on Earth through human beings. In other words, the spirit here reveals itself in the process of initiation, incarnating in the figures of the great initiates, who are the spiritual teachers of humanity. So literally, you have people becoming agents of the Holy Spirit on earth. So you have the great teachers of humanity, such as Rudolf Steiner, Christian Rosenkreuz, and so on. Now, this means that the impulse to create spiritual communities that gather around the teachings of a great initiate belongs precisely to this region of the sky. And in particular, since this moon is making these harmonious aspects with Mars, we have a suggestion here in the sky script that unity is strength, and that we can always contribute through our esoteric work, of course, individually or working in an esoteric group, a spiritual community. We can contribute to the spiritual stream we belong, helping the inner progress of humanity. As always, thanks for watching. If you want to support my work, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell not to miss out on future astrological insights. I am Roberto Corona. See you in the next video.